Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are, whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decorah. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast. Don't forget to hit that follow button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you like what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to share their story, email me at tdecorah@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects, such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. Before I introduce our esteemed guest, over here to my left, to your right if you're looking at the screen, I'd like to highlight the upcoming Survive and Thrive 8791 Mental Health and Recovery Conference taking place in Madison, Wisconsin. Join us on Wednesday and Thursday, October 29th and 30th. 2025 at the Ho-Chunk Nation Madison branch office. This powerful two-day event will feature several speakers who will share their stories through mental health and addiction challenges and how they've learned to survive and thrive. You can register for the conference on our website. If you are a business or an advocate for mental health and recovery, we invite you to partner with us through sponsorship opportunities. Our website is surviveandthrive8791.com. This is where we get into our guest and episode intro, and my guest is waiting patiently. Thank you. According to the internet, and the internet is always right, correct, Will?
Absolutely.
Affirm, absolutely. Well, if you grew up, or if you, and you did grow up in my house, but if you're in my house right now, I don't need that. I don't need the internet. I don't need the World Wide Web. I don't need Gemini. I don't need Alexa. I don't need Siri. I don't need Chat GPT. I've got your mom, Sarah, and she's always right. According to an AI, artificial intelligence overview, it is impossible to provide an exact number of athletes who compete under the stress of a winning streak, as this phenomena is not systematically tracked. However, the psychological impact of a winning streak on athletes is well documented in sports psychology literature. A significant number of athletes experience heightened pressure due to factors like rising expectations, increased scrutiny, and the fear of failure. Today, I welcome Will Decorah, my son, number one son, to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Will grew up in Waunakee, Wisconsin, and attended Waunakee High School and is a proud Warrior. After high school, Will would take his talents to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where he was a part of the Badger men's basketball team. He was a manager his first 2 years on campus before joining the team as a walk-on. Will would earn a degree in economics and join the work world, where he has enjoyed success in software sales and, most recently, hip and knee replacement sales. He's your guy if you need a knee or hip. Today, I'm so glad he could join us. Will Decorah, what is up?
Shoulders too.
Shoulders too.
That's right.
Okay. So can you get all three and kind of get a bundle on that?
You definitely don't want all three, but if you do need one, I know a couple guys.
You know, I know a couple of guys as well. So how has your summer been? We're shooting this on 8/27, Wednesday, the 27th of August. Summer's over.
Summer's coming to a close, unofficial close this weekend, Labor Day. Always was tough growing up, knowing you had to go back to school. No more staying out late, playing kick the can or cops and robbers, things like that.
I'm getting the Sunday scaries right now when you're bringing back getting ready to go back to school. But fortunately, I don't have to do that anymore.
No, that's a great feeling, and a great thing about being now in the professional world is no longer having to worry about going back to school. For sure.
The Sunday scaries. Did you take any vacation this summer?
Vacations have been few and far between since she blessed us with her presence. I was in Nashville earlier this summer at Michael's bachelor party. Going to Sam's bachelor party actually this weekend. I'm definitely too old to be doing multiple bachelor parties in a 3-month stretch. So we'll see how I survive this weekend. But no, summer's been great. It's been a lot of hanging out outside, playing with Annie, watching her grow up, walk and run around the house, and been staying busy with work.
Well, let's give shout outs where they're due here. Michael Meffert, friend of yours.
Friend of the program.
Friend of the program, friend of the family. Also, then your younger brother, Sam.
Yes.
So those were the two bachelor parties. What does Will Decorah do to unwind these days?
Well, I love golfing. Again, just like vacations being few and far between, golfing is now taking a back seat to being a dad. Fortunately or unfortunately, I guess, depending who you ask in the house. So, whenever I can get out and chase the little white pill around, it's definitely a good day for me. I like playing chess. That's something that probably a lot of people don't know about me. So that's definitely a big time suck for me.
Chess?
Yeah.
Okay.
And gives me a chance to unwind after a long day at work.
Do you play the chess where you move the pieces around and then you sit back and you look? Or do you play the game where you move the piece and then boom, hit the little button?
Yeah, online it's similar to the latter part that you just described.
Is it called speed chess?
It's called rapid chess also blitz chess, just depending on what time you use. But yeah, more or less it's a time-based game. So whenever you make a move, your clock stops, the opponent's clock starts.
My two younger cousins played that rapid chess down in, not chess, but chess down in Milwaukee. So I'm quite familiar with that.
Yeah, very fun game.
Before we get to your story, I need to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Do you cook dinner?
Yes,
and
often.
If so, what genre, style, or cuisine do you like?
I personally love Asian food, anything of the sorts. Some Mexican definitely makes its way into our rotation as well at the Decorah house. Yeah, I like to switch it up, and all the classics as well: burgers, brats, chicken sandwiches. That stuff is all.
That would be American cuisine.
That's right. So I like to switch it up. In the winter time when there isn't as much to do outside during the weekends, I usually like to take Saturday or Sunday to dive into a complicated recipe or something that might take a little bit longer of a time commitment to make. That's been something that's broadened my horizons for sure in the cuisine and the culinary world.
Absolutely. Well, with their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming, vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Waunakee, and Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. Most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison metropolitan area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes. Got a little drum roll here. Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
Yes.
Yes. Which one?
I have been to all of them, I believe.
Really? So
yes.
Sun Prairie is the home office.
Yes.
The second one that came was Monona.
Yep. And that's the one that's closest to my house.
Waunakee, which is close to your old house.
Also.
And Mount Horeb.
I attended a wedding at the Buck and Honey's Mount Horeb location.
Okay. And your go-to meal at Buck and Honey's?
It's hard not to say the Boom Boom Shrimp. That's
Boom Boom Shrimp.
I think a crowd favorite. Also really great chili, which I didn't know until we experienced that together last year.
Great chili. Okay, well, we're going to have to get some pizza the next time. Bomber's Special. On the podcast, our guests follow the format for sharing their story like this. In segment 1, we talk about what was it like. So we'll get into Will's history, which I kind of know, but you don't. So he'll share that with us. What happened to get Will on the podcast, and we kind of alluded to that a little bit. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened and get into what it's like now. And we discuss Will's 5 suggestions for thriving. So what was it like before and what happened? You were raised in Waunakee, Wisconsin, the only Waunakee in the world, from what I hear. What was life like growing up? I mean, I know what life was like growing up for you, but our rabid listeners don't know. So lay it out there.
Yeah, I mean, growing up in Waunakee, great life from everything that I remember. Small house on 4th Street.
4th Street, yep.
Was my earliest memories. I don't remember the first apartment / I don't know if it was an apartment, I guess, technically.
And that's okay.
I don't remember that. That was technically the first home in Waunakee, but 4th Street was really the first house that I remember. Obviously very young in that house. We moved to the house that I ended up growing up in
Cheyenne Pass.
2000, 2001, maybe. So I have fond memories of the 4th Street house. I still remember, some things very vividly. Sam getting born that night, waking up, thunderstorming. I can remember walking out into the living room, you guys not being there. Still to this day, very
looking around, confused.
Yes, very confused. Face lit up by lightning. Yeah, moving to Cheyenne Pass, also a great spot. Excellent backyard, maybe one of the best backyards in all of Waunakee.
Actually, I was thinking more of like Dane County.
Maybe in all of the state. We'll have to ask the listeners.
Yes. Other fond memories of Cheyenne Pass.
Obviously, using the sledding hill right behind the house during the winter time was a core memory for sure. Having friends over and spending a bunch of time up there. When we built the basketball court in the backyard, put in a lot of hours in that backyard. Mm-hmm. Basketball, foursquare, baseball, golf, ripstick. It all happened back there. So it was a great place to grow up, and enjoyed a lot of time back there with family and friends.
Yeah. So speaking of family, tell us about your family growing up. Obviously I know, but let's hear it in your Will, big brother Will, son Will, little brother Will. Let's lay it out there about mom, dad, and your two siblings.
Sure. Mom and dad, I knew, to be Wisconsin Dells superstars growing up, local superstars for sure.
I'll give you that $20 later.
Yeah. We always joked about as kids, Emily, Sam, and I, that, we were constantly being asked if we were Tim Decorah's kids. And that's something that still happens to this day. I don't tell you as much about it because, I've already pumped your tires enough to this point, I think.
Pump tires. I like that one.
Yeah. But yeah, Mom, Sarah, was the coach's wife. And, now growing up and looking back at that, did a lot for us as kids as you were, coaching basketball and football at Waunakee. And yeah, just great mom and still is to this day. God bless her. Mm-hmm. Dad, obviously everybody has the most of the story to this point, I think, about your past and just growing up being your son of a coach, playing for you when I got to 3rd, 4th grade basketball, 4th grade football for sure.
That's what I got in my notes.
Yep. And yeah, just always being around, being pushed. And, whether that was because you were my dad or because you were my coach, probably a combination of the two, definitely instilled drive and competitiveness into me. Just like memories on 4th Street, some of my earliest memories are going to basketball practice with you at Waunakee when you were the varsity coach and showing up at games and, always wanting to ride the bus home from away games.
It was tough because the only time you could ride the bus was when we won, and we didn't win very much.
Mom's rule was always, you can only ride the bus home if they win, because if they lose, Dad's going to swear in the locker room, and I don't want you in there when he's swearing. And you guys didn't win a lot of games.
No, I think I did that by design.
Yeah, and so that was not a lot of road bus trips for me, which was unfortunate as a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid, but always enjoyed being around basketball, being in the gym. Anytime I spent with you, going to random high school games, scouting back in the day where you actually had to go and film other schools,
sit and watch games, yeah,
and trade tapes at KFC parking lots in
back alley somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin. So that was great. And then little brother Sam, older sister Emily. Emily, I always say first friend, by kind of had to be, but was definitely a first friend. Didn't have, I wouldn't say, not a bad relationship, but 4-year age difference, girl and boy. I wouldn't say we were super close growing up, but after college, after graduating high school, definitely our relationship took a forward step in that direction of having more of a friendship rather than just brothers.
It evolved.
It evolved into a great friendship, and to this day, I would say that Emily is definitely one of my best friends and someone who I can talk to about anything. And that stands true to this day. And she now lives probably a baseball cutoff throw away from me, a couple hundred yards. And then younger brother Sam, kind of a different story, or I guess different relationship than I had with Emily. You know, he was the younger brother, 3 years by age, 3 years by school age, almost 4 years by calendar age, and was just the classic younger brother, always wanted to be around, hanging out with us, me and my friends, and definitely would be that annoyed older brother that, you know, didn't want his younger brother tagging along. But, you know, as we got older, that became less and less of the feeling and more, you know, I thought that I wanted him to be around and that he was a part of the friend group. And again, that's still true to this day. And he hangs out with my friends without me sometimes, even now. So yeah, it's great. Great family, strong five.
Lots of good memories and a lot of things actually that I'm for the listeners for the first time I'm hearing some of this stuff, and I think it's really pretty cool that you laid it on about mom and myself and the siblings. So I think it's good stuff. You graduated from Waunakee High School and you are a proud Warrior. What were some of your favorite memories? And we're going to split them in half here. What were some of your non-athletic memories of high school?
There's a lot. I think, you know, some that jump out to me was the construction trades class that I took senior year of high school.
Some of my favorite dudes of all time were in that class.
I'll have to show you after the podcast the picture that I dug up of that group all standing on one of our projects that we had built. But man, that was so fun. I went into that class not knowing a single thing about anything construction related. And to this day, I have knowledge from that class in, you know, just building in general and contracting that I still use.
And let's go ahead and give a shout out to
Mr. Brickle.
Mr. Brickle.
Yeah, still doing it.
He is working in Sauk Prairie now.
Mr. Brickle, if you're listening, I miss you. That was one of the best years of my life, and I think everybody would agree with that, or one of the best experiences, I would say, definitely in high school. So that class, and then just, you know, some of the other teachers, some great memories and relationships outside of just school, you know, good running into those people still today. Miss Ryan, we just ran into at your retirement party last year, told her the story that Michael, who we mentioned earlier, and I were in her risky business class, and there was an assignment that we had to do that come up with an entrepreneurial idea. So basically you had to create a company and give a business pitch. And for probably 3 or 4 straight classes, which, because we had block scheduling, we only had them every other day, so this would have been like 2 weeks, we would tell Miss Ryan that we had to go to the library to laminate our business cards. And we would be gone walking the halls of the school for 30 minutes or an hour, just doing God knows what. And she got a good chuckle out of that. And she didn't believe that she let us do that, but that was definitely a true story. So that's another fond memory that I have.
So we're going to get into the football here in a little bit because that's pretty memorable stuff. But let's go to the athletic memories of high school.
Yeah. You know, football, like you said, obviously stands out. There's a ton of memories that come to mind with that. It was my number one passion. My, you know, arguably first love in life was football, and a lot of memories that came with that, both good and bad, for sure, but mostly good. And then basketball, again, a lot of great memories. Making it to state for the first time in Waunakee history,
school history. Yep.
School history. My sophomore year, that was an incredible experience, and then just being a part of so many great football teams. I think it's hard to really narrow it down to one specific memory. It was a very solid 4 years to be at Waunakee.
And it was a very solid 4 years for all of us to be fans at that time because, yeah, the basketball stuff was great, the football stuff was great. And so not only for a parent, but I think for the fans in Waunakee, really, you put them in the stands, and it was good stuff. After high school, you would take your talents to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, where you were a part of, in my mind, arguably the greatest 4-year stretch in the history of Badger basketball. Some people would say maybe the 2 years prior, but you were kind of the 2 years after the 2015 when we made it to the NCAA championship game. What was the lure? Because my mind is going a little bit, but what was the lure to the University of Wisconsin, and were there any other suitors?
Answering the second part of the question first, not really. I think if my memory serves me accurately, there was a few schools that had very general interest that probably would have been open to taking me on as a walk-on, both in football and basketball. No scholarship offers, which was a pretty big disappointment for me, just personally. So, and then, had some opportunities to play at Division III schools, and just ended up wanting to pursue a degree and be a part of the basketball program at the University of Wisconsin. And that was, I think, the biggest draw, was having the opportunity to work for the basketball team in some capacity that ended up being a manager role, a team manager role. And a lot of my friends went to University of Wisconsin. My now wife was going to the University of Wisconsin, and that definitely played a factor as well. And proximity to home, love UW, everything about it, love campus, love Madison. It was a pretty easy choice.
So you were a manager the first 2 years on campus. What did you like about being a manager for the Wisconsin Badgers?
I think it was just the fact that you were a part of the team in some capacity, and we really felt like we were making a difference in the success of the organization and the program as a whole. However small that was to some people, it felt like it was a big deal to us. And to this day, I think it is a big deal, because there's a lot of stuff that we did behind the scenes as managers that not a single other person would probably know about unless you were a manager yourself. So that, to me, was, I guess, the most rewarding experience, being a manager. And then, the obvious benefits. We get into every single home game, great seats, usually. Sometimes you were stuck in the video room taping it on the TV, but that was only a couple games a year. And then being able to travel to road games was also pretty cool, and not having the curfew, or I guess the oversight that the players had. The managers,
A little bit of a looser chain,
little bit of a let you off the leash situation at away games. There's a couple of great stories that probably aren't appropriate to be sharing on this podcast. This might be a good opportunity for me to launch that subscription, where we do a little bit of a deeper dive with the subscription. But subscribe to the Patreon to get those stories. Being
a manager and the things that go into it, I don't know if it helped that when you were in high school, when I say we, the coaches, oftentimes would say that the increment, or the level of people in the program, were the coaches, the managers, and the players, because the managers were there before the team was there. They were there during practice working, and then oftentimes they were there after the team was done. And that probably kind of held true for you a little bit as well.
For sure. And that was Coach Ryan's big thing too. But he always said that it was, managers are just as important as the players. I don't know if that's really true. Like, you don't win basketball games without great players, but we did have a large role in the success and just the operation, day-to-day operation of the team, both during practice days as well as game days, and then all through the off season as well. So definitely played a big role and felt appreciated by both the coaching staff, the players, and the rest of the program staff as well.
Your third year, you would join the team as a walk-on, and behind the scenes, mom and I were thinking, hey, dude, it's your decision, and we're over here going, what is he thinking? How come he's not doing this? Come on, man, we're gonna get the good seats. So we're talking, and we really left it up to you. But how did that all occur? Because people have asked me, did you play a large role in it? And I've been happy to tell the story that we did not. We were hoping you would, but we didn't really play a role in that. Somebody else did. And so you're going to tell us the story.
Yeah, so it was September of my junior year. I was in, so a big thing that managers do, at least at Wisconsin, would be to come into the office where the video room was, and we would clip up either practice or opponent's game film, basically burn it to a disc, and then you put it in the coach's mailbox and be out for the day. So I was in the video room, I think doing something along those lines. And Coach Ryan walks in and says to me, "So Will, are you going to walk on or what?" And I kind of double take, because that's a big question, especially being a manager. I mean, you know what that means right away. And I don't even really remember what I said. I probably fumbled over my words and, sounded like a 21-year-old kid. And he said, something like, I'm dead serious about that. Like, if you want the opportunity, it's yours. Like, you're welcome to walk on. We'd love to have you on the roster. Whatever.
Not joking around.
Not joking around. And he walks out. Just as mysteriously as he appeared, he disappeared. It felt like into the night. Longtime program assistant and coincidentally a neighbor, Laura Strang.
From the hood,
overheard this conversation because her desk was right in that area. Within earshot. And she stood up right away and walked in, eyebrows, up to her hairline, saying, Did I just hear what I think I just heard? And I said, yeah, I guess I don't really know if he was being serious or not. And Laura said he was absolutely being serious. I don't think he would joke about something like that. And after she said that, I said, you're absolutely right. Coach Ryan, even though he is known to be a jokester, that was not something that he was joking about. And long story summed up, that's how it happened. And I ended up riding around with director of basketball operations, Kat Foster's, like the following Friday, like going to the hospital, getting a cardiac test, getting a physical exam, being sure that I wouldn't like die on the team and that I was healthy enough to be a basketball player. And athletic offices, scanning date of birth, all super administrative stuff. And like the following Monday, it was official, and I was at workouts, I think that week, if not the following week. It was a very, very bizarre situation, and I didn't really know how to feel in the moment. It definitely felt like something that I didn't deserve because of my basketball abilities. It felt like more of I'm doing you a favor because I know you and I know your family really well. And that was something that I wrestled with for pretty much the entire time and still kind of do, feeling like that should have been somebody else, or I wasn't good enough to be a Badger, quote unquote. But through the support of my teammates who were incredible, and to this day, some of my closest friends and people I still keep in touch with, they were all extremely supportive, and never once did I feel like that, and never once did I feel like an outsider. And they all took me in and acted as if I was one of their own, and forever grateful for that group. So yeah, that's how it happened.
And that was like I said, that was arguably 4 of the best years in program history.
For sure.
Culminating with the 14 and 15 trips to the Final Four, and then the following year after the quote good players all left for the NBA, you still had some very good players there and still got some things done. And it was definitely a good time to be a fan, and certainly a great time to be a parent. Because our listeners want to hear the rest of your story, I need to talk about our sponsor one more time. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew since the beginning. With 4 locations in the Madison area, one is always near. People ask why Buck and Honey's owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Buck and Honey's does. In 2012, Will Decorah would become, and we're going to go back in time here, would become the quarterback for the Waunakee Warrior football team, arguably one of the best programs in the state. I'm going to go as far as saying Midwest, if not country, because of the man that was leading the team, and also because you got to have good players, and you would become the quarterback and one of the team leaders. The Warriors would enter the season in 2012, and that would be Will's senior year, with a 36-game winning streak. You'll hear how Will handled the stress of that season, so please stay tuned. Don't change the channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365 and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency Crisis Services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decorah. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where we feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. In 2012, the Waunakee Warrior football team would enter the season riding a 36-game winning streak. 12 more wins would put the Warriors in the state championship game and tie the state record at that time with 48 straight wins. Will Decorah is here to share how he survived and thrived during that time. You step into the role as quarterback, and having played quarterback myself way back in the day, there comes a large responsibility with that particular role. It's usually a leader. It's usually somebody who can get the job done. They just don't give that job to anybody. You got to know what you're doing, the running back, the lineman, the wide receivers, the tight end, the defense. So you got a lot of responsibility. Since the show has a mental health component to it, how did you handle the pressures of that season? Because you started out the season playing Monona Grove, who had arguably a very good team that year. And that game started at 7, and I think it got done at about 3:45 a.m. the next morning because of all of the scoring and the passing, and we ended up winning the game. I think it was 45-38, and it didn't get done at 3:45. It felt like it, but it was 10 o'clock at night. That would kind of start the season off. What kind of stress were you under, and what was happening, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, I think all the obvious things come to mind. Stress that comes with being the quarterback of a team, the leader of a team, whether it's sports or not, being in the position that people are looking up to you and looking to you for not only guidance, but to lead by example and to motivate the rest of the team, and to do things the right way and show how the team should be going about business. I think stepping into that role was something I was ready for. It's a long time ago now, but I just remember I remember being on the team when I was a sophomore and having the opportunity to win the quarterback role. Things didn't work out, and I ended up playing in a defensive position junior year. So I think part of me was ready to take that on sophomore year, even though I was only 16 at the time, and was definitely ready to step into that role as a 17-year-old junior and then as an 18-year-old senior, it just felt natural to me. So I don't remember it being something that I necessarily struggled with. With regards to the record, personally, I don't remember that being in my mind like at all. It, to me, was more important to have a season that was our class's season, and it was great what the three classes before us and classes even before that did, but it was always about the senior class, at Waunakee, and the legacy that the senior class had, the results that the team had. It was always known as the senior class's results and their winnings. And so, we wanted to write our own chapter, quote unquote. And I think to me that was more important than this streak that felt a little arbitrary to me, because our goal was to go undefeated and win a state championship, like point blank. So a byproduct of that was to beat this winning streak. Great. Like that was our goal. And if that is what comes with achieving our goal, that's awesome. So I think that to me was more important, and dealing with the pressure of that was something that I think was more at the forefront of my head rather than dealing with the pressure of this winning streak.
Who were you getting support from? It probably should be obvious to the people that are listening that you were getting a ton of support from your family, brother, sister, mom and dad, loved ones, relatives, but who else was really kind of behind you guys throughout that whole run?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious. I think I talked to you probably more than anybody over the course of that season, just being not only my dad, but a former coach of mine all growing up. I think that was really important to me. I think we were so close as a senior class that we were able to really lean on each other. And, we were so close outside of football, a lot of us that were in that, core group of starters, that it was really something that we bonded over. And whether it was verbal or nonverbal, like being able to just be there together with some of your best friends and doing something, like I mentioned before, that was the passion of all of us and something that we all love to do and strive to be really great at, I think was probably more important than anybody else outside of that circle. We obviously had coaches that were extremely supportive. I can remember a couple of assistants that I always felt like I could talk to and have a relationship with and bring up anything that I was going through, whether it was challenging times or stuff that I was struggling with, or even just, to talk about something outside of football, take my mind off it, was definitely always something that I felt like I could do with a couple of different people. So yeah, I would say, the usual suspects when it comes to talking about, emotions and thoughts and concerns and feelings throughout that time.
So it was good to be able to talk with somebody, whether it was a coach or even a teacher or classmates or friends, to be able to talk to other people to relieve the stress of really not the winning streak, but the stress of life. Mm-hmm. It's good to talk to other people.
Yeah.
So as I'm listening to you talk, and coaches talk about this, players talk about this, what do you remember about? Do you remember this game or that game? And I know I mentioned Monona Grove, but a lot of the good players and people that remember is they don't remember the championship game, or they don't remember the game tying, the state tying record. What they remember is the journey. The practice is over. You have a lot of teams that will go, everybody goes out, there's 10 doors. You go out 10 different doors. You guys oftentimes went out the same door and got into the same cars with guys. So it really wasn't about a certain game, a play. It was the journey that you went through with your 40 other guys that were seniors that year. So you guys would tie the record at 48 straight wins. At that time was the record. I believe now it's like 72 wins by Kimberly.
All right, so it didn't matter.
Coach Jones. that would be the state record with Manitowoc for the longest winning streak in state history. That win, your 48th straight win, was in the state semifinals, and that would propel you and the Warriors into the state championship game. Was there a point after that 48th straight win where somebody mentioned it to you, somebody talked to you about it? Was it that day, the next day, the following week, where you maybe heard about it?
I do recall having media people asking about it. There was a lot of local newspapers and news reporters at our practice that week leading up to the state championship. I think just simply because we were competing for another state championship and we were a local team, but also because there was this larger story that was happening, that we had this opportunity in front of us to break this record that had been standing for a really long time. So I think that's how I ended up knowing about it or becoming aware of it. I don't remember anybody specifically coming up to me and saying like, well, you guys have this 49, or this is your 49th game in a row. If you win it, you break this record. Nobody, definitely none of the coaches or players were talking about that. If anything, it was outside sources.
I think that's a compliment to the coaching staff that you had. Maybe even the parents not saying a whole lot, and maybe really the student body didn't know as well. But I think that's a compliment to the coaching staff that it was kind of a one game at a time approach. Also, let's enjoy the ride because it's going to be over soon. So let's enjoy the team dinners. Let's enjoy the breakfasts. Let's enjoy the practices because it's unfortunately all good things come to an end. And Waunakee would fall in the state championship game the following week, bringing to an end to your high school football career. You would certainly move on to basketball, and we talked about the Badger stuff. When I mentioned the end of your high school football career, what does that do to, what does that conjure up?
Honestly, still to this day, it bothers me, and I don't think that'll ever go away. Football to me was something that was so important, and it was such an integral part of my life growing up. That experience and that chapter of my life coming to an end was extremely overwhelming in and of itself, not to mention the way that it ended in extremely heartbreaking fashion. What sticks out to me, like you said, it was the journey. And I think I have memories of fourth grade all the way up through high school that all culminated together on that day after the game had ended. And I remember being extremely, extremely emotional, and it just was not the way that it was supposed to end in our minds, in my mind for sure. And so to have it end the way that it did was obviously very disappointing. I think that affected some relationships that I had with people going forward, for good and bad, that still to this day I struggle with a little bit. And whether that's real or whether that's me just imagining those things happening, I don't know. But yeah, it sucks. I still think about it. It sounds stupid because it was 13 years ago and it's high school. But that to me, it was like that was my first love, and it died that day, for lack of a better analogy.
Yeah, there's a lot of really, I'm a historian, a sports historian, and I hear and listen to people talk about, their games, and oftentimes some of the really, really good people, they don't talk about their championships. They talk about the losses that they have that they remember the most. And I'm kind of one of them too, that like you, I lost my last high school football game, not in the state championship. It was to go to the state championship, and having some of the success I had in high school, that one is one that got away from me. And I too probably was a 1A and 1AA basketball, football, depends on where the wind was blowing. But yeah, losing in my last football game I mean, you brought up some emotions that I was thinking about in myself as you were talking. So good stuff. We're going to fast forward. We're going to end on a freaking great note. Now, to something really cool for both of us. On July 19th, 2024, you and your wife, Samantha, would welcome a new addition to the Decorah family. Tell us about, I'm going to shut my big yapper. You talk a little bit.
Yeah, so July 19th last year, we welcomed in our beautiful daughter, Annie Alice Decorah. Alice is my grandmother, my mom's mom, and that's her middle name, which was really special to us. Yeah, amazing day. I still remember it very vividly, every detail. I hope I don't forget some of those details because it was really special. Beautiful baby girl, Samantha, my wife, absolutely crushed it. Very smooth birth process, very smooth hospital stay. Brought her home 2 days later, and yeah, she's just turned 1 a month ago. I can't believe how quickly time flies. I know everybody says that, but it really, truly does feel like it flew by. And it's been an incredible joy, and something that you can't really describe the feeling that you have for her, for your child in general. Samantha and I always say that the love that we feel for her, sometimes it feels like heartache because of how much it hurts. And it's true, because I just want her to be happy and healthy, and I want her to have a great life. But I also know that there are going to be challenges ahead, and I can't be a helicopter parent for her, and she's going to have to overcome some of those things. But very rewarding. Fatherhood is awesome. I'm very tired, but that's to be expected.
So leading up to that, though, leading up to the July 19th, I think we need to sprinkle this in as well, because you've already shared a ton of stuff, not only with me today, but also you're sharing a ton of things, the ups and downs of the pressures of athletics and high school and now being a father. But there were some hiccups and some bumps in the road leading to July 19th that I want to hear you talk about those a little bit, because July 19th is special in a lot of ways because it took a little bit of work to get there.
Yeah, so we went through 2 miscarriages prior to having Annie. The first miscarriage went into the ultrasound at 12 or 13 weeks. And yeah, it was not a viable pregnancy. We were luckily able to, move past that pretty quickly from a physical standpoint, to be able to, start trying to conceive again. And I think it was less than a year later, Samantha got pregnant again and went in for that first ultrasound. This one was a little bit earlier, like 8 or 9 weeks, and had, again, a not viable pregnancy. Those 2 experiences were some of the most challenging and difficult times that I went through personally, and definitely was a time that was really challenging and difficult for Samantha and I in our relationship. Going through that, it feels like it's not supposed to happen, because you have in your mind, you get pregnant, you start to think about the life that you have with that kid, and for that to be taken away from you in like a split second through an ultrasound, and having an ultrasound tech tell you that it's not a viable pregnancy, like those memories will stick with me, unfortunately, probably forever as well. It was tough on Samantha for sure. It was especially tough because so many of our friends and people that we were close with were going through parenthood for the first time and getting pregnant and announcing it. So we were just hyper aware of, other people having children. And that was a really, really hard thing for us to get through, to, be happy for friends and family that are experiencing pregnancy and the miracle of life, which it is a miracle, also dealing with that sadness and grieving almost of the losses that we had and what wasn't, but through that time, we kept telling ourselves that, we had faith that we would be blessed with a child at some point in the future. We didn't know when that would be, but we knew that when we did have that child, we would not be able to imagine a life without them. And that is 110% true with Annie, that I cannot imagine not having her. And I truly believe that all roads and all things in this life have led me to here. And I love this life and I'm very happy about it. So the good and the bad have all brought me and culminated to this moment and have now brought me, everything that I have in this world. And that happens to be Annie. But it's a very lonely feeling going through miscarriages. It's not something that a lot of people talk about. Unfortunately, when you do talk about it, you find out how common it really is. And I think it needs to be talked about more, especially in guys. The women go through their own process, and I think a lot of people really focus on them, and rightfully so. But I think it's also important to be aware that the husband or the boyfriend or the father in the pregnancy is also being affected by this. So, as a PSA to your listeners, if anybody is ever going through that, I pray that you don't ever experience something like that, but please reach out. It's something that unfortunately we're happy to talk about, but I think it needs to be said that, there's people out here that know what you're going through and know what you're experiencing, and it's a club you never want to be a part of, but you can bond with the people that have gone through that same experience to hopefully make you feel a little bit better.
Well, knowing you for as long as I have, I think it's apropos to say that if somebody's listening to the podcast today and you heard about the football, you heard about the basketball, you've heard about growing up, but here's a little peek into Will Decorah's life, that because of the guy he is, that if there's somebody listening now that wants to reach out to me through, whatever channel, Facebook, instant message me, Instagram, I certainly could get you Will's contact information. Him and his wife, Samantha, would definitely be willing to kind of talk you through it and maybe not have any advice, but they might have suggestions on what they did and how they got through it. And which makes July 19th, 2024 so cool and so neat, and we were all happy, and I'm sure it's not just us, but friends and other family members. We were doing cartwheels. So what is the best thing about being a dad? I mean, I know what the best thing about is, but you tell me what the best part of being a dad is.
I mean, it's hard to narrow it down to one thing. It's the, walking in to get her out of her crib in the morning and she looks up at you with a big smile and raises her arms up to have you pick her up. You making a funny face at her and she laughs, or she's, standing up and she looks up at you and lifts her arm up for you to grab her hand so she can walk to wherever she wants to walk to. It's overwhelming love that you feel. And I think, happiness, love, passion are some of the best feelings that, you can go through, and to have both love and happiness as a father in all regards to Annie, I think has been super special. So it's very general, but the best part is just being there for her and seeing her be happy, and being sometimes, even if it's just a handhold, being that for her.
This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens, and pencils and jot some things down. Here are Will Decorah's 5 suggestions that have allowed him to survive and thrive the pressures of life. And here's what you shared. And I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style. Can you hit a softball?
It's been a long time since I've picked up a baseball bat, but I do have cleats still in my garage from the one season I played out in Denver. So I think I'd be able to pick it up.
Okay, I'm going to have you hit these in 60 seconds or less. And here's what you shared. So number one, judge others based on intention, not action. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, so this is a quote I love and I try to implement in my life. It's we judge ourselves based on intention. We judge each other, or we judge others based on action. It's just a perspective thing. Like, we're always looking to pass judgment on people based on what they do. But when you yourself make that same mistake or something similar, you say, well, I wasn't meaning to do that, or I didn't mean to do it like that, or I didn't mean for it to come off like that. So trying to keep that perspective and, maybe not being quick to come to a conclusion as to why somebody did something, but rather like, what could their intention be?
Number two, be present daily. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, this is a fatherhood, a new one for me that both Samantha and I really try to do. It's, being actively present. And it's really as simple as that, like taking moments in the day to really focus on being there in the present. I know it's really hard to do these days with all the technology that is at our fingertips and all these different stimulants that are in our life, but really just taking a couple moments each day. For me, it's when I'm with Annie to see what she's doing. What does it smell like in the room? What am I hearing? What am I feeling? And really trying to like take mental snapshots of moments with her so that I feel like I'm present.
Number three, physical activity. Go ahead and hit that.
Real passion of mine, no surprise here. I think everybody should be implementing some sort of physical activity in their life. Doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are. I think it is good for the soul. It is good for the body to get up and move. I would go so far as to say that you should be breaking a sweat. Most days, when I say physical activity, that means different things to different people. But hey, you have one body and you're not getting rid of it, so you might as well take care of it now.
Movement is medicine.
Yes. Amen.
Number four, challenge yourself. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, this is kind of building off physical activity. I think that you should post challenges for yourself. A lot of people think that just means physical challenges like a diet or a race of some sort or some sort of fitness challenge, but it doesn't necessarily need to be physical related. It could be you want to read more or you want to learn a language. And I think it's good to have those challenges set out so that you can be working towards something. And it doesn't need to be something that is super hard and difficult to accomplish, because that's something that you're going to give up on easily. If you want to read more, maybe read 5 pages a day, or if that's too much, read a page a day and build from there. I think it's really important to continue to challenge yourself and to drive that feeling of competitiveness. And everybody loves the feeling of accomplishment.
They do. Number five, the last one, listen. Go ahead and hit that.
I really, really try my best to listen more and talk less. Maybe this is something, a byproduct of my professional life, but I try to implement it in my personal life as well. It's to, really actively listen to what people are saying and not just be waiting for them to stop talking so that you can start talking. And so you can start talking about yourself and your experiences. Try to actively listen to what people are saying, and then that usually makes for better conversation, and that usually sets you up to be a better friend and a better listener. And, people remember how you treated them, not the things that you did. So that's a good way, good cheat code to help with that.
Yes, sir. What an episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you handled the pressures of life has been inspiring. I've been along for the ride, so I kind of know that. But now our listeners and maybe some good friends that maybe thought they knew you probably are going to know you a little bit better after listening to the podcast. Your story reminds us all to have coping skills or mental health tools in the toolbox when a person is met with the challenges of life. And despite that, you have survived and thrived. Our call to action, Will Decorah just shared his story about how he endured the pressures of being a high school athlete, husband, and now parent. He took what he learned from the pressures he endured as a high school student athlete and college athlete and leaned on those experiences when he and his wife were trying to add to their family. Here are Will Decorah's 5 suggestions that helped him survive and thrive. Number 1, judge others based on intention, not action. Number 2, be present daily. Number 3, physical activity. Number 4, challenge yourself. And number 5, listen. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts, Will Decorah?
No, thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming, truly a long time, first time situation. Happy to finally make it down to the Buck and Honey's remote studio and see it in action. I do have a personal plug, not on any social media, so I'm not going to plug my Instagram page or Twitter handle, but I am running the Chicago Marathon the second weekend in October. I believe it's the 12th. It's the Sunday. I'm not sure when this podcast is going to go live. Hopefully
tomorrow.
Okay, great. I'm raising money on behalf of the Jimmy V Foundation. I am running on behalf of Team V, and I would be happy to take your money and donate it to cancer research. Really good cause. Obviously, everybody knows the Jimmy V story. If you don't, you should definitely look it up on YouTube or watch a video.
Boot it up.
Yeah. But I can share with you that link, and maybe we can include it in the show notes.
We'll put it in the promo for tomorrow and wherever we post it, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, smoke signals, whatever. We'll put it out there.
Yes, carrier pigeons, things of that
Carrier
nature.
pigeons, yes. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learned to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdecorah@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.